take this opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for your service. These are difficult jobs, and they sure don't pay a lot of money, do they? So we appreciate you going the extra mile for kids, for staff, and for our community. So thank you very much. Join me in a round of applause for them.
Thank you for that, and thank you for the treats this evening. Thanks, Caitlin, for organizing that. Go ahead and call this Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Roll call.
Robin Foley.
Here.
Daniel Melton.
Present.
Kate McKinney.
Here.
Deb Olson.
Here.
Aaron Birch.
Here.
Marcia Schurz.
Here.
Paul Johnson.
Here.
I'll entertain an approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda how it's written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll be moving on to presentations. Item A is to consider the SHS boiler replacement.
So the board received the memo on Friday, which outlined some of the information. Sorry. The board received information on Friday that outlined the information. There is an updated portion of that today. The cost has changed based off of what we have now heard from our representatives from Jamar, and they're here to answer any questions that the board might have, but we do need action taken on this tonight. And just a side note that the temps are supposed to be in the 40s next week, so. I'll let them, does anybody have questions, or would you just like them to maybe explain a little bit about what happened? Okay.
Yeah, I think.
All right.
Can you step up to the mic, please? Thank you, sir.
I am John Cotney with the Jamar Company, a project manager, and do some business development for them. So the long and short is you guys, I'll just give you the existing situation of your boiler plant that feeds the heating pump loop for the high school. You have currently have two 1.5 million BTU boilers. One is redundant, so you always have that available heat to heat the facility during the winter months, the coldest part of the month. So I believe on your, I didn't see the memo, but I believe on the information that Shannon had, we broke down the utility bills and came up with a minimum or a maximum load of like 1.2 million BTUs. So to satisfy the inspectors and the way the engineering was originally done, we're proposing to change out and put one brand new 1.5 million BTU boiler in. So the original
Thank you.
portion was we're going to put a smaller boiler in because the second boiler that you guys have in place was functioning at the time of the original conversation.
Okay.
You know, in the last week or so, we found out that the boiler that was actually running has a leak in it also, and that needs to be repaired or replaced. So that's where the change came from, one 8.5 million BTU boiler to almost a double size boiler to 1.5 million BTU.
Okay.
So we are actually looking at an all-in cost of around $100,000 rather than the 75 that we had given out on Friday, the figure that we had given out on Friday. So at this point, if you guys approve to move forward with it, I can see if we can eke out that additional $25,000 in the 1920 budget, or we just go to the fact that we're going to go into fund balance for $25,000.
Does this have anything to do with some of the issues that we've been having then?
I'm going to defer to John or Todd on that one.
So we've had issues with different cold spots in the building, and we've had issues with the circulation of the geothermal. Would this have anything to do with those issues? Is that going to solve some of those issues? Do you know?
Well, yeah, so I'll take one question at a time.
Okay,
So the-
sorry.
So the glycol issue and the field, which all your heat pump loop water goes to, that's been addressed, getting the air out of the system and adding glycol and, getting the right flows to all your heat pumps in all the rooms. That was addressed. I think, that's pretty well solved.
Okay.
The loss of the glycol was this portion of the leak in the boiler system now that was discovered recently. So, with fixing this will resolve that problem.
As we
Thank you.
are having our 10-year anniversary of this building, how long would this new boiler last? Are we looking at another boiler 10 years from now, do you think?
I would think 20 years. The new boilers will have a stainless steel heat exchange in there. They're made for running these low temperatures.
Okay.
The original boiler had a aluminum heat exchange in them.
Right.
And just with the technology from 10 years ago to condensing, nowadays is so much better.
I want to ask you, so installing one boiler, we do hazard some risk, because if that boiler were to fail, then we would not be able to carry on school operations here, correct?
Correct.
So are we approving the phase 1 tonight, or are we phasing both these? Because we're looking at one right now and one a year from now.
Correct. That,
So are we approving both of them right now tonight?
we'd approve one
Just-
now to purchase and get it installed and get heat here. And, yeah, then the proposal would be a second one for next fiscal year. We also know that we're having some conversations about perhaps holding a referendum, and if that were to come to pass, and if part of it were for a middle school, and that passed as a referendum, then that would, the overall heating and mechanical plant would have to have some more planning and conversation around that.
And then I have a question. If for some reason this boiler would fail or something would go wrong, what are we looking at for likelihood of like a warranty, or you being able to come and get it fixed in a timely manner so that there's not a whole bunch of school missed? How does that work? Is that a part of this whole price, or is that an extra?
Yeah, we don't foresee any issues with a brand new
Okay.
boiler, but
Okay.
something could happen. But we would drop everything at our place and come down here. We
Okay.
have 45 service guys.
Okay.
We would
Just
definitely come.
checking.
We would, yeah, we have those, that brand of boiler everywhere. We'd go steal parts off a boiler. We would get you guys running. So
Okay.
So are we to be taking a risk for the first year?
there's always,
If something
yeah.
were to happen to our boiler in the first
Yep.
year, we could have some interruptions,
Yep.
possibly.
But the only way to fix that would be to
Put a second.
purchase two right now,
Well, and
which,
that's, yeah.
just looking ahead, if we do go to referendum and if the middle school addition were to be something that we look at doing, is the capacity of this boiler large enough that it could potentially, or not, I mean, we'd still have to have more conversation on that.
Well, our plan is that no matter what, if the referendum doesn't pass or if it does pass, there will be a second boiler installed after July 1st of 2021.
Okay.
In a
It will be-
normal, so when they ran the two boilers before, the initial was supposed to be a backup, or was it in conjunction? Did we need both to run?
No, you only need one.
Okay.
Yep.
But it wasn't large enough? Or why are we going up in capacity, I guess?
We're going to the same size.
Same size?
Yep.
What was the difference that you were saying?
The original conversation a few weeks ago was put
Okay.
a smaller boiler in
Okay,
because one of them was still running.
Got it.
Now
Okay.
they both don't run, so now,
we're going with
yeah,
the,
so we have to go to the
Okay.
nameplate.
And then are we going to have some kind of staff training so that everybody knows exactly how it's run and what it's doing and how to keep it maintained and those types of things?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, there'll be all the training that'll go on your BAS system, and there'll be alarms and everything, just like you have now.
Yeah, and I think that having that maintenance training is part of us getting a nice long lifespan out of a piece of our infrastructure.
Okay.
are there any other questions?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you
here
so much
tonight.
for being here.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the recommendation of the administration.
I'll second.
First boiler.
Do you need, just as a question, so any discussion, and I'll start the discussion, do you need to know where, or we are just going to move forward? Do you need to know direction on whether
have to-
we're taking from fund balance or you said you could eke it out of the budget potentially.
I would say at this point, to be on the safe side, to say that we would go into fund balance. If I can find any, then I would notify you
Okay.
within the next couple days. But I need to go back and do a pretty heavy analysis on what is out there. As you can see from the memo, we already pulled
Yeah.
from 3 different areas, 50,000. So to find another 25, at that point, it might be a different conversation. So I would say right now, approve it with going into fund balance, and then if I can, it's just a bonus.
Okay.
So, just a point of order, if Mr. Johnson would be willing to revise his motion to include that?
Sounds good to me.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Robert Foley.
Are you still there, Robert?
You know what? I can't hear. I can't. It's all garbled. I'm sorry.
Do you want
I know you're.
Do you want a quick recap?
What's the motion again? Can somebody else
Yep.
speak into the microphone?
The motion is to take the recommendation of administration to replace one of the boilers and to take money out of fund balance to pay for that as required.
And that's 100,000.
That's what we've been told by Jamar, that it's about $100,000 price tag on that.
Okay. Then what's the warranty? Did you say
20 years.
10?
The warranty is 10 years on the heat exchanger.
Okay. And you're looking for a vote right now?
Yes.
Yes, I vote for yes.
Nathaniel Milton.
Yes.
Kate McKinney.
Yes.
Deb Olson.
Yes.
Erin Birch.
Yes.
Marcia Schurz.
Yes.
Paul Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you again for your time and
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks. Thanks. We'll be moving on to item B, student, staff, and
Thank
community
you.
recognitions.
We again thank the school board for their service.
All right, we'll be moving on to item C, to consider the after-school social emotional group proposal.
Wait, 1 second. I'd like to recognize somebody before you come up. We played a football game against Chautauqua, and we were winning overwhelmingly. And the visiting coach from Chautauqua just said, you know what? He really appreciated the sportsmanship from Josh Fiesel by noticing that their team was down by a lot and putting the JV in. And he said that was such incredible sportsmanship and was very much appreciated. And I wanted to make sure that we recognize those kinds of qualities coming from our coaches and individuals. So I wanted to pass that on, and we'll hopefully get a chance to tell them personally, but I want to recognize our staff person for doing that, because there was another team in our conference that did not do that and kept running up the score. And so those kinds of things are noticeable and appreciated with that kind of class. And so I want to recognize our football coaches and staff for a job well done. Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thanks, Nathaniel.
Sorry.
So hello, is this working?
Yes.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and put this on slides. And what I want to share with you is a really great opportunity for our school family. Let me see if I can do this right. There we go. So for our school family, we have the opportunity to bring greater access for children in need to receive social emotional learning skills. And what we would be doing is partnering with Wisconsin After School Network. And Wisconsin After School Network has been partnering with the DPI, the Department of Public Instruction, and with the 21st Century CLC grants to bring greater trainings, more information to our leaders, more information to the staff at the leadership roles. And now they're taking it a step further by bringing some opportunities directly to our students. This is an opportunity to help students who might not receive access for learning those social emotional skills, working maybe with a local psychologist, or maybe with somebody like from Aurora or some of those services. This comes out of Marshfield Clinic. A psychologist there has been practicing for 30 years. And he has adapted, or she has adapted, evidence-based tools and activities into a group setting. And directly responsible for that will be school counselors as facilitators, and then we would have the opportunity to have a district employee who would be a co-facilitator to help with wraparound care. The Spooner after-school setting is an ideal setting. When I talked with Randy Neve, along with Nancy Bitney and one of our day school staff, or after-school staff members, he said that he likes to see this. He likes to see our organization partner with what he's doing because we've been a really great site to make things happen. And so he'd like to continue that partnership. So we would like to propose that it happens both at the elementary and after-school settings. We would receive about $5,000 to do it in both curricula, and then also being able to pay at a fairly comparable rate, the two members who would be facilitating the social emotional learning groups. So $5,000 would go for curriculum, and then also to pay the two staff members, the main staff members. What I want to share with you is a quick video. And I won't have you see the whole thing. You may have had access, if this was sent to you, to view it as well in detail. I want to bring you to two sections of it. Oh, video is unavailable. Okay. I'm going to go back. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and she can say it better than I do. And it's still not working. All right. I'll go back. So basically, one of the sample tools that I was able to see when I talked with Randy Neve from Wisconsin After School Network is how the facilitator would be sharing some of the key pieces with the students. And things that they talk about would be like 5 parts to myself, talking about the strengths we each have and how that can help us when things get tough. They also talk about how each child is vivid, basically that each child has their own strengths. We are all individuals, but we also have the opportunity to become better, and sometimes we do that through making mistakes. And then a third component that I thought was really awesome for our children to hear about is they reinforce that you should be thinking, at least, like when you wake up in the morning, think about 3 good things that either happened in the day or something about yourself or something like that that can be something that you fall back on and help you when times get tough. So that was an example that I was hoping to share with you. So I'm excited to be able to bring this to students, especially students that really struggle with those social emotional learning skills. Some of the highlights, the training is coming up hopefully on the 19th of November that we would be able to attend in the Chippewa Falls area. So we wouldn't have to go down to Milwaukee to do it. It would be fairly local. We would be able to provide the possibility of 3 8-week sessions. For sure we'd like to start in January, so for sure we'd like to do 2. And wraparound work would be done both with the families and with the children. Technical assistance would come from Marshfield Clinic. Again, the $5,000 in funding. Our district would sign a memorandum of understanding, so an MOU would be signed. And that would help us really line up exactly what our Spooner School District would like to see in this arrangement. So the next steps, if you are approving of this, we would start the sessions after the November training, again, possibly starting January. We'd like to see a set of 8-week sessions, both one at the elementary, one at the middle school, during after school time, and then possibly maybe one in the summer as well. If we did offer a third session, I talked with Randy Neve how a couple of summers ago, 2 summers in a row, we offered an equine therapy session for some of our students. We partnered with a local horse ranch, and they actually have a program that helps meet students' and families' needs and working with horses. It was very well received by the students. Matter of fact, they wanted to come back the next year. So if needed, we would seek an outside party for that third session is what was recommended, because maybe our school counselors can only commit one 8-week session. And so that would be something that we would like to dive into if possible. And maybe it's with the horse ranch. So that in a nutshell is what I'd like to share. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Two quick questions for you. So our after-school program is a great program and has been very successful. I just want to make sure I understand correctly. So this is not necessarily a part of the after-school program, but just an additional layer of service on top of that program?
This is something we would be able to offer that we are not able to offer at this time with the funding that we have.
Okay. And for a child to participate, are they required to be in the after-school program, or could a child who may not participate in our after-school program still participate in this program?
Both. It would, so for instance, we might ask, if Nancy Bitney is one of our facilitators, we might ask her to maybe recommend students that aren't in the program currently, but she might work with students that are already in there as well.
Thank you.
Do we have current staff that can do this, and how far will this $5,000 go with those 2 8-week sessions? And then if we continue it into the next year, is this something we're going to need to budget for in the future? Or is this just reassignment of staff we currently have?
Great question. So what I understand right now is that the Wisconsin After School Network is partnering with DPI to bring more opportunities like this to rural communities. And so my hope is that we would be in the running for continued funding with such activities. Right now, Ashley Villela is helping out about half an hour a night a week in the middle school after-school program. But she's really pulling stuff from what she sees as needs during the day. This would be definitely targeting high-risk youth that are right now, it's very hard for them to come to programming and meet their needs. Is my understanding. Of course, that would be up to Ashley if she was able to do it. And in the elementary school program, Nancy Bitney helped out in our program a few years ago. She hasn't had time to come back, and something like this is definitely, because it would supplement what she can do during day school for the children that are high risk, and she feels that this would be a win-win for day school programming, and she's willing to do it in the after-school programming.
Let me just, I can probably answer the question about the funding. So what it would happen then is that Karen and I would just have to back into the amount of hours that would be available per the rate of pay that these staff members would receive. We wouldn't exceed $5,000, so you just back into the number of how many hours you can service the students,
So
and
we're basically redirecting what their roles are going to be. We're adding on additional duties, but we're going to be taking away something later.
Nope. So these are think about this separate from their regular job duties. This is something completely different than their regular job duties. So it would be after school, their day would end, and then this would be funded. The time that they would be spending doing this would be funded with this grant money.
But only for this year, is that correct?
This is,
For right now?
And most grants are a school year long, and then you restart over the next year. So if we wanted to do it, we would have to go back and apply for the funding, or it would be awarded to us in some fashion.
This grant money is coming from Marshfield Clinic?
Correct. Yep.
This sounds like a really great opportunity for our students, and the fact that, I think that you're saying the wraparound care is the ability for our staff to coordinate throughout the day and after school. So meet the needs of students in a big picture sort of way that they aren't able to do because of time restraints and different things, and the resources. So this would provide time and resources for needs that students have in our district today. And it's a great way to be able to meet those needs without adding an additional cost to us as a district. So I think it looks like a great start to a program that I hope continues to grow and that we can maintain.
Exactly. One of the things that I've talked with, like Jackie Perro in the past, her and I have talked about how can we help more students in our after-school program, especially those students who we know have the needs. And this is one way where we can be bringing a professional who has that background directly to our children. A lot of times children can't afford this. Mm-hmm. And so this would be increasing access for those children.
One piece of the video had a lot to do with education of families. So the way that she spoke about incorporating the 5 parts of yourself and all that really talked about how they help facilitate that at home. And is that going to be a part of this as well, is how to incorporate family with helping students? And
yes, my understanding is that the role of the co-facilitator is to, there would be like a pre-test, like not a pre-test, a pre-survey and a post-survey, and then communications with the families so that they can help support the efforts that the school guidance counselor is doing.
Really good.
Do you have any idea how many students would be benefiting from this?
They like to see 6 to 8 students per session. And so, and again, we're talking, high needs. So it could be 3 times 8, could be about 24 students this school year. And I'm considering, the summer as part of that year. With this, I did talk to Randy about that because we aren't starting in the fall. We'd start, later. And I said, could we go into the summer? And he said, we are definitely willing to talk. We'd love to see this.
Are there any other questions? Thank you very much for your work on this and presenting.
You bet.
Do we have general consensus to move this forward to the regular board meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. We'll be moving on to item D, to consider the ECCP and Start College Now requests.
We have before us the juniors and seniors who have applied for spring college classes through ECCP, which is that early college credit program, and Start College Now, which is the technical college program. Both similar programs, just different names for them. So in front of you, you see the students that applied by the October 1st deadline. That's required by the state. Each student would take, most of them will take 1 or 2 classes. There are 3 students that will be full-time throughout the spring semester, so they'll take 3 or 4 classes. Any questions for me on that?
Doesn't look like it.
Perfect.
Thank you very much for putting this together, and great opportunities for our students. Do we have general consensus to move this forward to the regular board meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. We'll be moving on to item E, the referendum update.
After much discussion, the school perception survey is out to community members, to parents and to staff members as well. The survey remains open through 5 p.m. on October 21st, and we certainly encourage everybody who's here tonight and everybody who's watching this to complete the survey. We have additional hard copy surveys as well as online access codes available, and all a person needs to do to get that is contact the district office. excuse me. A little bit of statistical information, not real current, but just to give you kind of a flavor. The day after the staff survey went out, we already had 30 staff that completed it, so that was certainly a strong start. And the morning following the parent survey going out, we had 157 responses. So we can, again, continue to encourage people to take that survey, and we just want as much input as possible as that information will be used to help you make some decisions on a possible referendum. Questions of me?
Thank you. We're moving on to item G, to review the update to special meetings policy, or I'm sorry, F, we skipped F. Board admin retreat follow-up.
We bring 3 items to you to look at this evening that are items that were tasked to the administration to do some planning work and come back to you as a board. And this comes out of our August school board administrative retreat. So the first involves the 30, 60, 90-day planning cycle. And in that, we've established a draft of a district-wide template, elementary, middle, high school, and district office included. In the buildings, the principals their work has been to solicit staff input each month, and we know that that'll be, if this is a format you like, it'll be a process that I think will only get stronger in the future. So what you'd see is you have a 30, 60, 90 day tonight, and what we'd propose is that on a monthly basis, the 30-day piece of it gets updated, in addition to anything that may be new pieces that come on the months that we've previously reported on. It would be included as part of committee of the whole agendas, and our action on this would be that that you ask any questions you have, and we have any discussion that you feel you need to have, and then receive and place on file this process. Questions on 30, 60, 90 day? Next one is administrative reports. We talked about ways that that all administrators can provide the board, and people who would look at this would be looking at the board docs program online, just to learn a little bit more about highlights that are going on in each building and functional area. So again, we've developed a draft of a district-wide template. Each administrator in the district would provide an update on key items in their building or area of responsibility that would occur monthly. The reporting interval would be from the previous board meeting to the current one where the report would be. Would be on a regular board meeting agenda, and our, again, recommended action would be that we field any questions that you have and have any discussion that you feel pertinent, and then that would be something that you'd receive and place on file. Questions there? The third piece dealt with some ideas for alternatives to the staff listening sessions. So the discussion that we've had is that really the work that takes place in buildings needs to be focused on the school improvement plans that are developed in each building collaboratively in that work. So the part of the proposed action would be that each building provides 2 board updates and a summary each school year. That the format would be the school improvement plan update, similar to what we did last year, but we'd include some pieces to it. What's going well in the buildings, what kind of challenges there are in the buildings, steps that the staff are taking to address those challenges, and supports that are needed from you as a school board or from the at the district level for them to meet those challenges successfully. Again, it would be a similar template, but more depth than last year. One of the most important pieces, instead of just the principal presenting, it would be a collaborative effort to develop the presentation in the building level, and then a team with the principal and teachers that are here presenting. That would give the board an opportunity to ask questions, and also for you to hear the insights of a broader range of people working in that building. And what we would recommend for an action is that we try this format for the remainder of this year and next year, and then evaluate the effectiveness of it, and make some decisions on a longer term format for allowing for that staff voice and allowing for you as school board members to ask questions about things that are happening in buildings. Any questions on that?
I have one question. So I know we did the focus on the staff listening session so that people can come forward and say, what's going well, what they'd like changed, what things are, going well or not going well. So where does this come into if there is an issue, following a plan, so that they're heard and they feel like their concerns are addressed?
So thank you for asking that question, and this is an important insight for us all to consider. You don't have to wait for a staff listening session, which occurs one time a year, if you have a concern. Our ongoing communication and message to staff members is, if you have a problem, take it to your immediate supervisor. If you're unable to get resolution, or you're feeling like your issue has not been addressed adequately, then you can come to the next level, which may be to Mrs. Grindell or it may be to me. As an administrative team, we felt quite strongly that work-wise, that, boy, we have such an important set of tasks that we're doing, that the focus really needs to be on those school improvement goals, because we will always have more things to do than time available. So it's important that we prioritize those efforts, and the administration is recommending that that's where the focus is, and we think that including the additional pieces that we briefed to, as well as expanding those teams, gives some opportunity for voice on those items.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments on any of these three follow-ups? I really appreciate the work and effort that went into this. It's good to know that we did a lot of work and a lot of conversation at that retreat, and a lot of team building and trying to understand our roles and how we work together. And I think this gives clarity to that. I'm appreciative that we have direction and a way to move forward. And I hope that we as a district and as staff don't look at this change as shutting down voice, but we view it as a way to work together to accomplish the goals that we have for our school, our students, and our staff. And I think that when we all do our job and speak, when speaking is necessary to the right people, we can get things done and do what's best for students.
I'd like to say that I'd like to thank everybody for participating, because I think the biggest challenge as a board member is what is good insight as a board member versus what is overstepping as a board member. And we had some real frank conversations, and there's an understanding that as long as we're focused on what this list is and what our goals are, let's try not to deviate too far and stay focused here, because we can get sidetracked real easy if we take an overstep somewhere else.
Yeah. But in the process, keeping lines of communication open, and I think that's a great way to do things. So thank you. We have general consensus to move this forward, as we're approving this for the next year with reevaluation. So general consensus to move this to the regular board meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Now we'll go to item G to review the update to special meeting policies.
I'd like to make a motion to approve it the way it's written. I don't know there's a whole lot of discussion to have. We're basically correcting our policy to match the state statutes. What this is, correct?
That's correct.
So I make a motion to approve the way it is written.
To-
I mean, guys, forward it through.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
We'll move this forward to the regular board meeting. Do we have consensus to do that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Moving to item H, to review graduation requirements policy from Neola Volume 8, Number 2, update.
Is this the first reading of this?
Yes, this is the
I
first
think
time
it
we've
is.
seen this.
The second reading, right?
So the shell of the update came through in the last large update that you got from Neola. Mr. Schurz took this update back and worked with his staff on it, made some recommendations on it, so that's how that comes to you
So
this
if
evening.
it's not a new policy, we don't really need a first reading and a second reading, it's just an updated.
It was a revision. The other revisions, I do believe that you did a first and second reading on those the past couple of months.
Yeah, we pulled this one and said that you wanted to bring it back to staff. Do you want to give a quick summary of the process, and are you okay with that?
Sure.
Or what came out of that?
Basically, what we did was we took a look at our existing policy, and what Neola was doing is giving us some more options of how we could expand our graduation policy. And the things that they suggested really weren't in line currently with what we're doing at Spooner, so pretty much what you're seeing is very similar to what we currently have. There wasn't a lot of change in that process. So that's what you have in front of you is primarily what we've had and continue to have for graduation policy. And again, looking at making sure our requirements were listed along with what is a standard requirement maybe for the state. That makes sense.
Okay.
But I wanted to let other eyes on it, as well as being that I haven't been here for as many years as some of the other staff members.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
So this is just an addition to what we already have, is that correct? I'm just a little confused as to, can you give us some insight?
If you look at any of the policies that you've gone through from Neola, they always create additional options, okay? For example, there was an option of athletics being given Phi-Ed credit if you're in athletics, which, doing a little research, that wasn't something the district had promoted or wanted. We want our students to have Phi-Ed and not be able to opt out, that kind of thing, because we believe it's important for their well-being. So those are the kind of options that Neola provides that other schools may have done in the past. Offhand, like I said, there were several choices that we could make. What we did is we aligned what we currently had as a policy, because there wasn't anything in that policy that we're saying that this needs to be looked at. And again, hoping that when you looked at it, you saw the same thing, that there's that consistency of our expectation for graduates and continuing that same expectation.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have general consensus to move this forward for the first reading at the regular board meeting?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to item I, the 30, 60, 90-day planning. And so we've had completed templates, and now I think, if I understand correctly, it's our opportunity to ask any questions from what we have been given.
That's correct.
Okay. And then we'll receive and place on file if we don't have any questions or discussion. For those listening or watching, it just gives kind of a breakdown of the events for the next 30, 60, 90 days and an overview of what we can expect coming up in each individual building. Are there any questions?
So are we going to be listing these out for people, or is this just something that they can go on and see, I guess?
It's on board docs, so they have, the public has access to it. So
Okay.
it's not only on your guys' side, but it's also on the public side.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, do we have general consensus to place on file?
Yep.
All
Yes.
right, thank you.
Very
Thank you
nice.
for that work. Item J is the financial update.
Yep, so a quick update for the period ending of August, so 8/31. Beginning balance was of approximately $620,000. We took in about $6.9 million in receipts. The reason for that is we received our August tax settlement, which is always good. Total expenditures for the month was about $1.8 million, so at the end of August, we had an ending cash balance of approximately $5.7 million.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
What's our financial projections for deficit-wise for the coming year at this point?
Based off of the vote that just happened, approximately $25,000 deficit. So we were balanced going into it. Again, just something that wasn't planned for, so we're looking at about $25,000. Unless upon further review between now and me finalizing everything before the annual meeting, where we can find it, but I would update you guys on that via email.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Item K is the approval of the vouchers. Excuse me. Were there any questions or concerns about the vouchers? Do we have general consensus to move those forward for approval at the regular board meeting?
Yes.
Yes. All right. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.